Hello and welcome to Shaw Spotlight's Science and Innovation Show. I'm your host, Simon Hiatt. Today we're on location at Saskatoon's Western Development Museum, an appropriate location as this building has long paid tribute to the pioneering spirit, which has of course always incorporated a tremendous amount of innovation. Finding innovative ways of creating energy has long been at the forefront of Canadian life. Back in 1919, this straw-powered car was built right here in Saskatoon. Unfortunately, its maiden voyage was also its last, as the large tank up top only managed to create about the equivalent of 1 gallon of gasoline. Modern innovations in energy production have come a long way, as we find out in our first feature from Vancouver Island, where one resident has built a net zero home.
I'm actually very disappointed that a house like ours is not the standard. I found only 3 or 4 net zero homes here on Vancouver Island. It makes me sad that it's such a slow process because climate change is such an urgent topic, and I think we need to go way faster than what we do. A net zero home is a home which uses, on average over a year, less energy than it produces. I had always that sustainability and environmental mind, yes, because I learned that very early, probably in grade 5. We had a fantastic teacher. He already told us about organic gardening, about how bad it is to use oil and gas. So I always had that in my mind, but I only started building homes about 12 years ago. I had no idea about construction before that. When I designed this house, I started out with the insulation. So I modeled different types of insulation values. How much insulation do I really need in order to be still affordable, but also be as energy efficient as I wanted to be? I found a medium happy value. Then we add things like triple pane windows and really good airtightness to reduce the overall energy of the house. The BC Energy STEP program is an extension of the building code in BC, and it basically provides a pathway how municipalities and therefore also construction companies get to build more energy efficient homes. Each municipality can decide which step of this building code they enforce or require people to build to. In 2032, all municipalities need to be at step 5.
One would think that a step 5 energy efficient house would look industrial. Not so. I love the look of our net zero home.
Power outages are quite common in our area. We experienced 5 days of power outage during the storm in 2018. With climate change, we expect that there will be way more outages in the future. This converts 12 volt into 120 volt. Our EV has a lot of battery capacity. I just installed a small inverter here, put the car in what's called utility mode or camping mode. This thing can run most of the house for 3 to 5 days. In order to do our small part to mitigate climate change, we need to start by reducing our energy use. We have to go away from carbon fuels to sustainable fuels. If we do that by using the same amount of fuel what we use right now, it will be very difficult. So if we start by reducing energy use first, and then the remaining energy we need, we can then migrate to solar, wind, battery storage, and all these nice fancy technologies.
Moving away from gas-burning vehicles towards more environmentally friendly practices feels like a relatively recent goal. But as this exhibit proves, it has been happening almost as long as there have been cars. This 1911 Roush & Lang coupe is among the very first electric vehicles ever produced. It also didn't come with a steering wheel, as drivers guided it with a tiller bar. Well, electric vehicle technology certainly has come a long way in the last century or so, as we find out in our next feature, as we learn about a classic hot rod that is being powered well into the future.
gas engine becomes obsolete, these cars will also become obsolete. We'll start to see gas stations disappear, and the saddest thing would be to see no more hot rods on the road.
Yeah, I'm gonna cry here, geez. Before my daughter Emily brought up the electric car idea, I really didn't like electric cars.
My dad's initial reaction to the idea of an electric was not positive.
God, those things are so ugly.
He didn't understand at that point in time just the power of electric engines.
You know, there's something there, but I still wasn't into it.
Once we started doing research into just how cool these electric conversions could be, then he started to get excited.
You get 1 million miles on them.
How fast can I go?
My first prototype, what do I put the motor in? Well, I had my 36 Hays that I got when I was 16. It was my grandfather's. It was a logging truck. Why not just change an existing hot rod that I had? I put a low voltage motor. It was only 126 horsepower, which isn't a lot as far as gas motors go. But it had 260 foot-pounds of torque at 1 RPM. I didn't even know if the thing would drive up the driveway or go up a hill. Once I took the Hays for a spin, the performance was far superior to my old gas motor. I couldn't believe it.
Every once in a while, he'll say, "You were right."
Works a little too good.
My hot rod buddies, I was really amazed. Every one of them is like, "Oh man, Chris, this is awesome."
We're contributing to a more sustainable environment this way, and we're giving them the opportunity to stay relevant. We're bringing hot rodding into the future.
We got to get into high voltage motors. We got to put one of these in a Camaro.
We're super excited about our latest electric conversion prototype. My dad and I are calling it the Cyber Beast.
I want to simplify the process. So this whole thing is going to bolt right into your car. Pull it back a little. You use your existing motor mounts, you use your existing radiator. You don't have to think, it's all done. You just do it like as if you're pulling a gas motor out and putting another gas motor in, but it happens to be electric. My big goal is to get down to SEMA in Las Vegas with my family and showcase what we've worked so hard on.
SEMA is a huge car show that happens in Las Vegas. People from all over the world come to learn new things, showcase new products, and network.
I can do it, you can do it. What I've always taught you, right?
One thing in particular that my father's always saying to myself and my mom and my other sister is just that I want to show my daughters that if you have an idea and you think it's cool and you work hard at it, you can pretty much do anything. You know, I got to tell you, how rewarding it really is working with my two daughters and getting them involved. It brings a tear to my eye to see that they're so interested in what I'm doing, and I'm interested in them getting involved in what they're doing. I am so proud of my father. I am grateful to be involved. He is brilliant. He is a genius. And I don't use those words lightly. Like, what he's doing, he's taught himself every single aspect of this project. He's taught himself. Sometimes I get frustrated when I think he can't use the remote control to turn on the television, yet he taught himself physics to learn how to understand batteries in electric vehicles. So it's really, I really admire him and what he's been able to do.
I'm re-educated. I'm re-educated.
The spirit of science and innovation was key in settling the Canadian prairie provinces. Staff members here at the WDM built this sod house to prove just how resourceful pioneers were when it came to surviving and thriving during those brutal Saskatchewan winters. Overcoming obstacles is also the theme of our next feature. One province over in Lethbridge, Alberta, technology is helping a woman overcome her mobility issues.
As soon as I turned 18 and kind of got out onto my own and began to explore my community, it wasn't until then that I really realized how many barriers there are for people with disabilities. Good afternoon, Ability Resource Center. Innovations that have really helped me in my life, things like having access to the type of wheelchair that I needed. For instance, I'm sitting in a manual wheelchair right now, which I need to get around my house and do the things I need to do indoors when I'm at home. But I was also fortunate enough to acquire a power wheelchair that's motorized. This is obviously great for long distance mobility if I need to go out and do errands like shopping or just going for a walk with my dog. It's also a great tool for me at work to be able to move and do all of the tasks required for my job. And the other wheelchair that I have is a special shower wheelchair that allows me for the first time ever to shower completely independently by myself, to have access to something so simple that achieves something so meaningful to me, you know? So the first time I was able to take a shower completely on my own, it was incredible. After I finished, I turned off the tap and I cried because I didn't realize until up in that moment what I had been missing all these years. As a person who needs a large amount of help all the time, you kind of just grow to accept, well, this is the way things are, and you just kind of become numb to what you're lacking. And when I was able to do that and experience that, it was like, oh my God, like this is freedom for me.
You're bringing it to me, right? That's what you usually
Oh,
do.
yeah.
Even 20 years ago, as a 14-year-old, like I thought what they had then was cool, but I mean, it doesn't even compare to what is coming out now. And so it's really cool to see that shift happening in that progression.
Science and innovation are also key components in how the Western Development Museum tells its exhibits stories. The more eye-catching a display or poster are, the more likely they are to attract a visitor's attention. But as we find out in our next feature from Comox Valley, screen printing isn't just used to create beautiful, impactful art. It can also be used to create high technology.
The first time I printed was in high school, and we hand painted a stencil of Jimi Hendrix's head and then printed it in the classroom and then printed it on shirts and printed on a lot of things. And that's the unique thing, one of the unique properties of screen printing is it can print on a wide variety of materials. We use it for art, like the prints for George here. We use it for advertising. So screen printing is used a lot in advertising. I'm big in the gig poster movement. I love rock posters. And those are ads, but they're art. And then that third part is the alchemy. And the alchemy is when we get into printing electronics or we're printing all these different things. We need to see the flood is really thick. Yeah. So we want to bring this down. Okay, so hit it again. But the most interesting part to somebody who's been in screen printing a long time, like myself, is what we call industrial or functional print. And this is the really interesting thing about screen printing, is screen printing has always been considered a lower class print because it's so simple to do. Now, it looks simple, and it is kind of simple in steps, but when you get into some of the industrial applications, think cell phones. Everybody has a cell phone. it's all digital, right? Well, no, it isn't. It was made using a number of processes, and one of the main ones is screen printing, because screen printing can print conductive materials. I don't know how to say it nicely, but we have scientists coming to us lowly screen printers saying, well, we know that this is how you do it. How do we do this? And with science, I mean, they're always trying to make it so that every time you print, it's exactly the same. Valid thing to do in manufacturing. But to get to that point, some of it is alchemy. It's all part of the same thing. We still use a squeegee to print with, this little rubber blade, and it's always interesting, and there's something new, always.
Andy would never say it, but he really is like renowned in this industry. And so for those of us who actually get to work with him every day, we are we feel so fortunate and so grateful that we have this opportunity. Andy is really passionate about teaching and about education, and one of the things that I think makes Andy really special is that for him it's not about trade secrets, it's about sharing and giving this ability to everyone. And so in that, he becomes this incredible mentor, both in business, in screen printing, in how to live your life as a human who does things that they care about, and we're all better for it.
I don't know, I just find it really fascinating. It's a nexus. It's a point where we get to work with artists, we get to work with entrepreneurs, we get to work with corporate entities, we get to work with teachers and kids in school. We get to work with a whole bunch of people, and they're all, the one common thing is that they're kind of dreaming about something. They got it in their head, they want to make it into a real thing. And screen printing can help you do that.
Here at the Western Development Museum, this exhibit demonstrates the evolution of agricultural machinery dating back to the early part of the 20th century. Now, innovations through machinery continue to improve the day-to-day lives of Canadians, but they can also be used to save lives. In our next feature, we find out how vending machines have been modified to get harm reduction products into the hands of the people who need them.
It's up to us to identify what's important in the future that we want. And so a lot of this starts with a human need that someone's identified, hey, we can make a thing better. I really love technology and the way that it's transforming our world, the way we interact with it, the way we get to make lives better. And I felt that this would provide a layer of instruction and interaction. As well, it could be applied in later iterations into new ways that, again, help humanity, whether that's a natural disaster and making sure the right people are getting the right products. The Smart One is a vending technology platform which makes vending machines smart. So that allows us to be able to take old technology and map that now into an automated retail, just like you're seeing the self-service kiosks in big stores. We're doing the same thing now for other retail channels.
Again, we want those layers, right?
We asked a lot of the vending machine world if this was possible, and most of them didn't want to support it, didn't understand why we were doing this, and so we recognized they weren't really the right people to ask for permission. So we kind of developed the mantra, well, there's nobody to ask permission, so let's just do it. So once we actually had that physical piece of hardware in our hands, it was really rewarding to know that, well, where do we want to take this next? If this first piece could be done without the industry support, is this an opportunity for us to revolutionize? So are we maybe a little bit ahead of the curve? I think so.
Not only does it provide harm reduction supplies, but it also provides referral information. And with the touchscreen, it's a lot easier to operate, and it can also display information as well. For instance, there are drug alerts that are sent out by the Interior Health Authority in regards to the toxic drug supply. And so that machine can display those drug alerts, when we're not here after hours. So obviously that's incredibly useful. So anytime social services, like any other industry, can integrate with technology, it tends to benefit the clientele, and obviously that's what we're grateful for sure.
They really like it because it's not competitive to what they're offering. In fact, it allows them to focus more of their time on those that fall outside of the normal day-to-day. If someone shows up there and they know what they want, they've already registered in the system, and they're being counted in some way, that's an automated piece that, again, they can come and go as they please. It's now the opportunity to reach those that come 24 hours a day, and what we've seen is that it's just as busy at midnight as it is at noon. So if it's that busy into the evening, who are we not reaching in that 9 to 4 window?
How to save someone's life.
You know, my employees kind of laugh a little bit when I say that every time a machine breaks, my heart aches. You know, like, it really is true that, you know, I'm tied to the outcome of our company, obviously, but in the way that this has affected so many individuals, 100 to 150 individuals access one of our machines every day. And we've got them in British Columbia and New Brunswick, and now they're going to be across every province in a large push. But ultimately, knowing that this is providing a line of infrastructure that allows stigma-free, barrier-free, as well provides direct connection to those services, I think is extremely valuable. And I think we've really only chipped away at the start of what this communication and self-service network will mean for public health care in the future.
One of the most remarkable achievements in Canadian science and innovation was the development of this, the Cobalt-60 Beam Therapy Unit. This device has been instrumental in saving the lives of millions of cancer patients right around the world, and it was developed right here in Saskatoon and first used at our university hospital. Now, not far away on the campus of the University of Saskatchewan is the Canadian light source synchrotron. And as we find out in our final feature, work being done there may once again put Saskatoon at the forefront of saving lives on a global scale.
We drink water every day, and we should be sure that it's safe for our body. It's our right to have access to clean water. My name is Khaled, and I'm a PhD candidate in chemical engineering at the University of Saskatchewan.
Khaled's field of study may have brought him to Saskatoon, but it was inspired half a world away.
I was living in Iran, close to Urmia Lake. It's the second largest salt lake in the world. So I had lots of memories with this lake, and it was dying. We used to go to that lake for swimming and having fun, but nowadays there is no water. Threat the life of more than 15 million people around the lake. I just thought that how a chemical engineering can also save the environment. More than 200 million in more than 70 countries are drinking water with high concentration of arsenic. Arsenic is toxic, can lead to cancer and other problems. Wastewater treatment plants are not able to remove all of these pollutants. So what we can do here is using agricultural residues to make filters that can put at the end of wastewater treatment plant process and capture these pollutants before entering to the rivers. For making agricultural residues an efficient filter to capture pollutant from water, first we should study what do we have on the surface of agricultural residues? What are the functional groups that can act as active sites to capture pollutants from water? And then we work on that functional group to leverage them or change them to make them able to capture pollutants from water. This sample is treated with the aluminum oxide, and also for this sample we treated the sample by heating. We are in the right place to do right research. We have agricultural residues in Saskatchewan and Canada. These are available here. We are using waste to solve a wastewater problem. This is the waste of oil extraction from canola. And we can also work on this to see is it possible to make something value added from this bait or not.
Much of his research has taken place here at the Canadian Light Source Synchrotron.
So this is for our standard sample.
A football field-sized facility that essentially functions as a giant microscope, using light millions of times brighter than the sun to analyze a wide variety of materials at the molecular level.
The equipments there help us to understand in microscopic level how arsenic atoms interact with functional groups on the surface of agricultural residues. Our research is going very well. We have published 7 papers so far, and also we just started collaborating with the uranium mining in northern Saskatchewan for their arsenic and selenium problem. This research will take time to reach that marketable point. I'm happy that my research is successful in lab scale, and we will start scaling up our research, and working on larger scales will help us to understand the possibility of our research results in industrial levels. And I'm happy that one day the filter that we started preparing in our research can save the environment and can save the life of people.
Well, I think we've learned today, both through our features and the exhibits here at the Western Development Museum, that science and innovation can take on many different forms. Whether it's finding better ways to power our homes or creating cleaner drinking water, it's about improving the lives of Canadians and people around the world. I'd like to thank the staff here at the Western Development Museum for hosting us today. Don't forget, if you want to see any of these features again or check out some of our other remarkable stories of Canadians doing incredible things, you can visit our Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram pages. I'm Simon Hiatt in Saskatoon. Thanks for watching.